Still no update on whether that call will happen or when. Leland Miller joins me now. He's the co-founder and CEO of the China Beige Book. Good to have you on, Leland. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
A lot of attention on a Trump-Xi call. Trump has been talking about how close his relationship is with the Chinese president. But the fact is, the two sides seem to be digging in on the trade war. Can a call resolve any of this?
Well, I don't think any of it can resolve any of this. The question is whether the relationship can be stabilized. Now, Trump's point, and the reason he wants to get on a call with Xi is that, this has to be done at the very top or nothing will actually happen. And I think there's something to be said for that. The Chinese side is very hesitant to hit their president in with our president for the very simple reason that they don't understand what the U.S. side wants. They don't want to embarrass, put Xi in a room or a call in which he'll be embarrassed. They want to understand what the U.S. asks are. They want to understand what they can get in return. They want to make sure that if they are talking, that there's somebody on the other side who can negotiate for that side. So there's a lot of unknowns here. It's rare you see so much attention on a simple phone call, but here we are.
Yeah, you've heard a lot of talk of they don't want Xi Jinping in the Zelensky chair in the Oval Office in any such meeting or phone call. Is it correct that China has discovered a big vulnerability for the U.S. in its rare earths exports? My understanding is that prior to their truce, that U.S. companies were lobbying the White House quite directly and saying they're in trouble if they can't get access to some of these rare earths, particularly companies that deal with batteries or magnets, et cetera. Is that leverage that the U.S. has its own leverage to respond to?
Well, look, the discovery was done by China, but it was done over a decade ago, which is why they have shaped their entire economic model towards, boosting economic advanced technology and boosting key supply chains so that they can add leverage over the United States and other countries around the world. Yeah. One of those supply chain choke points is critical minerals, and rare earths is a subset of critical minerals. One of the other hats that I wear is as commissioner of the U.S.-China Economic and Security Review Commission, and we have a full-day hearing going on tomorrow to discuss this because there's just now getting enough attention. These have been issues for years on how many supply chain choke points the Chinese really have over the U.S. economy. It's defense technology, it's pharmaceuticals, it's biotech, it's electrical components, it's critical minerals. There's a lot of them, and Congress and the administration have not been on top of this issue as much as they should have been.
I was going to mention pharmaceuticals next. So can you map out what a potential agreement would look like, or if not a formal agreement, some sort of walk down of the current trade war?
Well, you have a couple of options. Obviously, there was a phase one, so there could be a phase 1B in which the Chinese agree to, address some of the issues specifically around the trade deficit. Maybe they throw in a couple other goodies, and the U.S. does some things in return, and you call it a truce. Another is, an unequal or sort of an equilibrium around the current truce, which has high tariffs but is, a stable for whatever that's worth. Or there could be a bigger, more aggressive deal, which nobody's really talked about, but I guess it's an option out there. So the question is what does the president want? I can tell you what just about every China expert in the administration, China hawk in the administration wants out of the relationship. Until we know what President Trump actually wants, we're not going to be able to figure out what a deal could look like.
Is any such deal likely to address what Trump at times has said is his key goal, which is to bring manufacturing from China to the U.S.? Is that a realistic, or some of it, or a chunk of it, to the U.S.? Is that a realistic, achievable goal?
It's a realistic, achievable goal, but not by doing a deal with the Chinese. The way to bring manufacturing home is to have an economic program that protects U.S. industries, incentivizes building at home, and tariffs those areas, those sectors that are seen as national security risks, so that you make sure that the Chinese are controlling, microchips that go into weapon systems and other things like that. So yes, it's doable, but it's not going to be done with a phase 2 deal with Beijing. It's going to be done with smart economic security policymaking that will protect American industries and incentivize more manufacturing back home.
And that takes time. Leland Miller, CEO of the Beige Book, the China Beige Book, thanks so much for joining.